If you haven't been living under a rock for the past 2 months, you will undoubtedly have heard about the many ways EA screwed up the launch of one of their biggest titles of the year, Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm Matt Lacas for VGS, and I want to talk about the fall of EA. It started back in October, when early beta players from the game learned that loot boxes purchased in the game would be more cosmetic and have real effects on the battlefield. This, coupled with the idea that either you had to play an insane amount of hours to unlock special characters like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, or, you could just pay a bit more up front and you could have them. This caused a huge uproar in the community. But EA? No, they didn't stop there. EA's community manager, Matt Everett, had the brilliant idea to call fans of the title armchair developers on Twitter. Yeah, it didn't go over well. The gaming community responded against EA and started to cancel their pre-orders left, right, and center. Finally, the day before the official launch, EA said that they were listening to their fans and removed microtransactions from the game and will continuously work on improving the system. Thanks to this, EA's stock on the release date of Battlefront 2 dropped 2.5%, and Battlefront 2 has sold 60% less physical copies compared to Battlefront 1. Was EA always the worst company in North America? Were they this evil company bent on picking our pockets clean and treating us like cash cows? Believe it or not, no. They were one of the first companies to stick their neck out for the little guy and independent creators. A Stanford graduate, Trip Hawkins, founded EA in 1982. He originally wanted to call it Amazing Software, but ultimately wanted a name that followed his mantra. That creative talent should come first, and that video games were a true art form that anyone could enjoy. Hawkins believed that the best game developers would create the best games. They didn't have to be within his ranks of the company. He was happy to go fishing for the right people. He believed that software devs were artists. He knew that one day video games would be a standard form of media like TVs and movies and music. He also wanted people to get out of the gray world of TV and live in a world where you could interact with one another. He took very seriously the way his audience reacted to his company's material and wanted to make sure he was putting out quality work. Hawkins ran the company a little differently than others back in the early 80s and 90s. He ran it kind of like a movie studio, accepting concepts and full-finished games in the mail, and tried to convince the creators to come on board to have EA help them make their dreams come true. Much like a movie studio accepts scripts. The EA of yesteryear advertised their games with the same panache as music studios, with full-cover artwork and the game developers' names right on the cover, like a subtitle to a band name. They didn't make anything in-house, instead giving a voice to independent artists that were trying so hard to break into an ever-changing industry. Hawkins stepped away from EA in 1994 when home consoles were becoming the big thing. Sticking with his independent spirit, he decided to make a console that didn't take royalties from game makers and gave his artists more freedom. He wanted creators and consumers to be at the forefront and not those who were profiting from the sales. Sadly, his baby, the 3DO, didn't really get a footing thanks to a dubious dealing with Sony and Nintendo. It was pretty much ran right into the ground. Since that time, EA has walked further and further from Hawkins' original vision. They started moving away when they started buying smaller developers like Bullfrog, Pandemic, Black Box, and BioWare and running them into the ground, usually causing them to close up shop and then gutting their IPs for themselves. It's sad to see a company fall from such high graces. EA has now been voted the worst company in North America multiple times, and it's on course for another win in 2017, mainly because their actions speak louder than their words. With things like online passes, day one DLC for AAA title games, early server shutdowns on their multiplayer stuff, and now this whole Battlefront 2 fiasco, is there any chance we aren't seeing them back on the top of the turd award that is Worst Company of the Year? That's the question I want to leave you with. What can EA do to redeem themselves and get back on track to how it all began? Thanks for listening, and remember, games are art. Bleed for your art. Keep listening to VGS.